who is better, Judge Dredd or Batman? Hello again, Batfans, and welcome to Judgement on Gotham, the first crossover between Batman and Judge Dredd. It all begins one night in Gotham, when a horrible creature starts killing innocent people. This thing is called Judge Death, and all he wants is to spread death. Batman tries to stop Death from killing more innocents, but he realizes that Judge Death cannot be killed. In the confrontation, Death is burned with fire, but as his body turns to ashes, his soul escapes. In the ashes, Batman finds some sort of electronic device, and after he picks it up, he is transported to a weird, futuristic city. There, he is confronted by someone who is part machine and part human. His name is Mean Machine, and he gives Batman some answers. The electronic device is a dimension belt, which allows people to travel across different dimensions. Judge Death used it to reach Gotham City, and now Batman is back in Mega City 1, the place where Judge Death comes from. Mean Machine attacks Batman to steal the dimension belt from him. The fight gets the attention of Judge Dredd, and he goes to capture Mean Machine, as he is a wanted criminal. Mean Machine steals the dimension belt and escapes, leaving Batman alone with Judge Dredd. Mean Machine travels to Gotham City, where he chases down Judge Death. Meanwhile, Judge Dredd takes Batman as a prisoner to be interrogated. Dredd thinks that Batman is associated with Mean Machine and finds enough evidence to arrest the Dark Knight. Even worse, Dredd would not listen to what Batman has to say about Judge Death. Only when Judge Anderson shows up and reads Batman's mind, Dredd is convinced that Batman is telling the truth. Even then, Dredd refuses to do anything to stop Death from destroying Gotham, because that is out of their jurisdiction. Bruce has had enough. He breaks his bonds and punches Dredd in the face. Batman questions the kind of justice that Dredd believes in, but Dredd is only concerned about the law. Batman keeps beating Dredd to a pulp until a group of judges restrains him. They take Batman to a vehicle, but Judge Anderson shows up in a motorcycle and breaks Batman free. Anderson is the only judge willing to help Batman, but Dredd won't let a prisoner escape that easily. Meanwhile in Gotham, the Scarecrow is out once again and is experimenting with fresh human corpses. Scarecrow breaks into the morgue, and once inside he is joined by the ghost of Judge Death. The two of them realize how similar they are, and they decide to work together. Scarecrow helps Judge Death possess one of the corpses at the morgue, and his henchman finds a suitable outfit for the new Judge Death. However, because he is now inside a human body, Judge Death is vulnerable to the Scarecrow's fear toxin. Scarecrow takes advantage of this and uses his gas to make Judge Death his obedient servant. Scarecrow wants to spread fear on a massive scale, and with the powers of Judge Death, they both get a new target, a rock concert at Robinson Park. Meanwhile, in Mega City 1, Batman and Judge Anderson ride to a building called Tech 21 in order to use a dimensional transporter. They manage to teleport to Gotham City, just as Dredd and the rest of the judges arrive to Tech 21. Batman and Anderson arrive to Gotham and take the Batmobile to chase Death. Judge Dredd appears in Gotham as well, and he chases the Batmobile on his motorbike. Judge Anderson uses her psychic powers to locate Judge Death and tracks him down to Robinson Park along with the Scarecrow. The rock concert draws thousands of people, and the main stage is full of rock stars. Judge Death infiltrates the stage and starts slaughtering the musicians in front of the audience, striking terror in thousands of hearts and minds. Scarecrow is delighted, but before the massacre can continue, Batman arrives and attacks Judge Death. Scarecrow takes out a can of his fear toxin, but before he can use it on Batman, Judge Anderson shoots the can, exposing Scarecrow to his own toxin. Death takes the opportunity to attack Batman, and he gets ready to deliver the final blow when Judge Dredd shows up and shoots down Judge Death. As all of this is happening, Mean Machine has made his way to the concert, but he is out of control and he destroys the foundation of the main stage. The stage collapses and Judge Dredd is trapped in the rubble. Death takes the opportunity to kill Dredd, but Batman stops Death and saves Dredd. Judge Death tries to escape in spirit form, but Judge Anderson uses her powers to snatch the ghost and locks him inside her own mind. Dredd stops Mean Machine and gets ready to arrest Batman. The Dark Knight will not go without a fight, and Dredd is more than happy to oblige. Judge Anderson reminds them that death is inside her brain, and a reluctant Dredd allows Batman to remain in Gotham, while he and Anderson return to Mega City 1 with their prisoners. That was Judgement on Gotham, the first crossover between Batman and Judge Dredd. It was written by John Wagner and Alan Grant and illustrated by Simon Bisley. We all know Alan Grant's reputation as a good Batman writer, and on the other hand there was John Wagner, the co-creator of Judge Dredd. Wagner and Grant had previously worked together both on Batman and Judge Dredd, so they were the obvious choice to write this crossover. The art by Simon Bisley is striking and bold. This was the first Batman story by Bisley, and that's why the art is something never seen before. The vehicles and weapons stand out and draw all the attention. Batman is a massive creature of the night, without losing his humanity. All the characters have unique, different and bold designs. In short, Bisley's art has the qualities of museum paintings, with striking visuals and a flair for the dramatic. This book was published in 1991, when Batman's popularity was still off the charts. Judge Dredd was quite popular as well, but not nearly as much as Batman. I'm sure this was the first time many people learned about Judge Dredd. It was the first time for me, and I think it is a good enough introduction to Dredd for people who don't know about him. The story makes you want to know more about the Judge Dredd universe and the lore, the villains, the allies, the origin stories, the weapons, and all that makes the Judge Dredd world is very interesting, except for the most important thing: Judge Dredd himself. While the mythos surrounding Dredd is very intriguing, the main character, the protagonist of that universe, is not. At least not in this story. And there are two reasons for this. The first one is because of how Dredd was written, and the second one is because of the narrative structure of the story. In any crossover that confronts two big heroes, there will always be something wrong with one of them, if not with both. In the case of crossovers with Batman, he always has to come up as the winner. Maybe it's because of his popularity or for his strong and defined characterization, but whatever the case is, the other character will always have to play second fiddle to make Batman look good. And that's exactly what happens to Judge Dredd. At the core of this story, the main question is, who is better, Batman or Dredd? And the answer lies upon the main aspects of both characters. When put together, Batman and Dredd symbolize the confrontation between justice and law. Batman is a vigilante who wants to see justice done. Judge Dredd is a law enforcer who believes that nothing and nobody is above the law. And that's the core conflict of this story. A vigilante does not work with the law, especially if that law can provide true justice. That conflict is reflected in the actions of both characters. Batman always seeks a way to stop evil and bring evildoers to justice, even if that means traveling to other dimensions. Dredd, on the other hand, is only concerned about stopping lawbreakers and make them pay. But he will not chase criminals everywhere, especially if the law doesn't allow him. And that's where the grating issues with Dredd come from. While Batman is consistent with his vision of justice, Dredd is not consistent with his vision of law. At first, he is not willing to chase down Judge Dredd because Gotham is in another universe, and that is out of his jurisdiction. But when Batman escapes to Gotham, Dredd immediately chases him down as a criminal across dimensions. Why would a stubborn law enforcer break his own laws? The only reason I can think of is because the writers needed to move the story forward and had to find some very convenient way to get Dredd in Gotham. But in doing so, they sacrificed characterization, making Dredd look simply bad. The characterization was partially why Dredd didn't work, but another big part was the narrative structure of the story. Firstly, this was an action-oriented story. It was very straightforward and to the point. The problem there is that the story was too ambitious, because besides the main conflict with Batman and Dredd, there was also a conflict with Judge Dredd and Scarecrow. In fact, the story is much more focused on the villain's plot than in the Batman-Dredd dynamics. This book is almost 60 pages long, and Batman and Dredd appear together in only 12 pages. 12 out of 60. The villains show up more than the heroes, and that's why Scarecrow and Judge Dredd are the best part of the whole book. Their dynamics, their characterization, and their alliance are far more interesting than whatever happens with Batman and Dredd. And when you have a story where the villains steal the spotlight from the heroes, you know there's something wrong. Well, not all the villains were that interesting. The Mean Machine, for instance, was completely irrelevant. His subplot doesn't change much of anything. So it's clear that Grant and Wagner had issues creating a cohesive and balanced narrative. Still, this is a very good and enjoyable story. I was particularly delighted by the art, the villains, the new elements, and of course, Batman. Being the first team-up ever between these two characters, Judgement on Gotham was successful, and some years down the road, 3 more crossovers between Batman and Judge Dredd have been created, and we will check them all when the time comes. But in the meantime, there are other Batman crossovers that require our attention, and in the next one, Batman has to confront an unstoppable force in Batman vs. Predator. For all that and many more Batman crossovers, subscribe now and come back for the next episode. Until then, Godspeed, my friends.